Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Game Podcast. One game this week, Cayman. Just one single game.
The
The Spotlight,
Spotlight game.
Podcast.
We're really crushing the intro.
I know. You know what happened? I was about to do the intro and I was like, I remember last time I did this, I said my name. Let's see if I can not fuck it up. And I was thinking that the whole time I was speaking. So, of course, I fucked it up. Welcome back to the Spotlight Games Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick. Joining me, as always, my sweet dumpster boy, Cayman. Cayman, how are you?
Man, Patrick, I'm here.
You're here. Can you believe it? We're on this bi-weekly cadence, not on purpose right now, but it means that we have a lot to talk about when we meet.
Sure.
In terms of games we're playing or not playing. But today we're going to be talking about The Expanse. We're going to be talking about Stray Gods, the role-playing musical. We're going to be talking about maybe Twisted Metal Season 1 a little bit more, a little touch on that. But most importantly, we're going to be talking about, should Tears of the Kingdom be Game of the Year this year? We have a whole topic planned. Maybe pair it with a little side of Burnout, Cayman. Just a little
side, little
zest, a little Burnout zest. But Cayman, there's just so many things to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games Podcast where each week we talk about, each week, sometimes every other week, we talk about the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod. So be sure to follow us there so that you're notified when we go live so you can be part of the conversation. Cayman, yes. There's something about when these lights are on, I see you across the internet space. I could be having a day where I just don't want to record, but once we start recording, I'm glad to be here.
It just feels good, doesn't it?
It feels good. Even if there was nothing to talk about, our listeners know we can fill 2 hours.
Just we could do more than that, brother.
Brother. But Cayman, I come to you today, but a humble man,
brother. You've never been humble.
Oh.
And you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be.
Stop it. Do I need to get up and shake my ass for you on camera right now?
I mean,
would we get banned on twitch.tv/Spotlight GameSpot if I shook my ass?
It's funny you say that. So I've been in pajamas all day.
Oh.
And I was like, I got to get a shower before we go on live, and I got to put on real people clothes. And then I was like, wait, why would I do that? For anyone that watches this live, you never see the lower half of me. And then I was like, wait, but then there's always that one chance.
Yep.
We get just spicy enough where I will get up and shake my tush in the camera. I don't want people to see me in my pajama bottoms.
Because famously, your pajama bottoms are nothing. You're Winnie the Pooh.
Nothing. It is just, it's just belly hanging out and nothing else.
Yeah. Cayman the Pooh. No, actually, I do want to ask you this, Cayman.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, if I were to guess, a Cayman Darty pajama set, maybe it's a band t-shirt, maybe it's a t-shirt that says like I drink blood on Fridays, and just like some shorts. But tell me, Cayman, are you a pajama set boy? Do you have a cute little striped are you the boy in the striped pajamas?
No.
Not that boy in the striped pajamas.
Oh, well, I'm definitely not that boy. Thank goodness. No, I'm so when I'm not in bed sleeping,
yes,
I rock gym shorts. That's my sleepwear. Just gym shorts.
Yeah.
But I like rocking during the summer. I like rocking sweat shorts over top of them.
Ooh, double
it's like underwear. Like the gym shorts are essentially underwear. You just get more free flow. More comfortable for me. It's not constricting, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
So I rock a pair of sweat shorts over top. And then normally, like you said, it's normally a band t-shirt and or a horror movie t-shirt is like normally what I wear when it's like, that's my normal outfit when I'm not going in public. Sometimes I don't want people when I go in public to realize that I'm kind of a weirdo.
Sure.
So
aren't we all though?
But I just imagine you are very much, Patrick. You are the guy who wears like that plain white tee that people wear under dress shirts. Okay, plain white tee, and I'm really thinking plaid flannel pants.
So there was a long period in my life where I was a white tee for bedtime boy. So you're on to something there.
Okay.
And part of it was my mother, my beautiful mother, she so often growing up and even as an adult sometimes buys me clothes. It's one of her love languages is gift giving. And so she would just like give me packs of white t-shirts. And so I'd be like, I'm not a white t-shirt under the dress shirt guy unless it's cold, because I don't want the second layer. I want breathability. So I'm like, I have these fucking 19 white tees. I might as well sleep in them. What else am I going to do in them?
I feel it.
And then there was, when I was a young boy, when I was a young fit king, it'd be a no shirt all year round. It fucking
just
in the middle
sitting
of
around the
winter.
house.
Yeah.
Nips out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sun's out, nips out. That's what I always say.
Yeah. The rhyme there specifically is
I got kicked out of a Target one time for saying that too.
Yeah, I was there. I was there. But I have aspirations to have like matching pajama sets. I actually bought one while I was in Japan that I've only worn like once, partially because it doesn't fit me well. I might need to lose a couple lbs before that fits me a little better. But I'm normally just like whatever t-shirt. Maybe it's World's Greatest Papa. Maybe it's just a shirt that just says Papa. I have a lot of dad related shirts and Papa related shirts.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. And I have what one brand calls Saturday shorts, just like a casual short. Your sometimes like a soccer short from my football days. On the pitch, Cayman.
On the pitch.
But what I'm saying is all of this to say 7 minutes in, there isn't really a box that I fit in when it comes to pajama wear. But I'm willing to learn to be put in a box. For pajama wear.
I'm not. I'm very much just like, let me just have my fucking sweat shorts over my gym shorts.
Yeah. Wintertime though, I don't know that I do have a flannel looking pair of pajama pants, although they're kind of, the butt's kind of coming out of them, but it's like a gray black pajama, not like a flannel, not like a red black, normal flannel. But I like a sweatpant in the wintertime.
I'm a comfy boy.
Yeah.
I do love my comfy and sweats. And
yeah.
That's it.
Let us know what you wear to bed. Cayman, what do you say we talk about some video games?
The audience is begging for that.
I mean, if they didn't already fast forward or put us on 1.75 speed.
Yes. They're listening to us talk about pajama wear for 5 minutes. Yeah.
I'm in the chat. P-Schwag, it's my wife. She's also a comfy boy.
It's true.
She loves a matching set. It's one of her greatest features. Loves a matching set to bed. Cayman, I've been playing. So I mean, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
you can play all sorts of games in 2 weeks.
It's
you
true.
can do all sorts of things in 2 weeks, or you could do nothing.
Also true.
I finished Tears of the Kingdom on Sunday. We're going to talk about that more in full. Topic of the show. But last episode, I said at the end of the show, you know what, guys? I'm going to be playing in the Expanse episode 1. I'll have my impressions next week. Cayman, I did just that.
Did you?
I want to start us off with Telltale's The Expanse, episode 1, impressions. I only say I mean, I could review episode 1, but I feel like it might make more sense to do a review when it's all said and done. Something worth mentioning up front. If you've played a Telltale game in the past, one of their biggest flaws has been their release schedule over time. Sometimes it takes fucking 4 months for the next episode to come out. They said from the get-go, I think it's 2 weeks, a new episode is dropping. So when this drops tomorrow, I should have episode 2 of The Expanse, which is great. If you haven't played a Telltale game before, a little insight into what this game is. It's essentially, it's essentially it's adjacent to a visual novel, but you're walking around, you're clicking on things, kind of a old school point and click adventure in a way, but very dialogue driven, very conversation driven, very choice driven. You might see in memes like, a character will remember this kind of originated from Telltale. Not to say the other games didn't do that, but like they kind of, that was like their big thing. You would make these choices and the story in theory would branch in different ways. Then they went out of business and now they're back. And this is their first game as a new reborn studio. And I'll tell you what, Cayman.
Yeah.
It just feels like Telltale again.
Does it?
In all the good ways and all the bad ways.
Mm.
I think I'll start with the good. I really like the story they're telling. You were a big fan of The Expanse. I watched season 1 and part of season 2, and I still plan on going back. I just still haven't yet. But it never got its grips in me. But it follows the story of, so this is a prequel, so this is not a spoiler for anything, but it follows the story of Kara Gee
I love her.
and the beginning of her, I guess the ship, maybe she has a ship in the show, perhaps. I forget if I knew that from season 1. But it's essentially kind of about her crew and things go wrong and you play as her, so you're making choices as her with your crew. So there is the story already in. Like I was really captivated by episode 1 from a narrative perspective. I was surprised at how janky episode 1 felt. They kind of, when they announced this, they were like, we've completely rebuilt our system from the ground up and, new graphic style, but they were like, their whole thing is we want this game to feel more, quote unquote, next gen in terms of what a Telltale game can be. And I do think for the most part, they deliver on that promise.
Sure.
But I was surprised at how, like, it still feels really kind of janky to walk around. And
so it feels like a Telltale game.
It feels like a Telltale game. And I was kind of expecting it to not feel as janky.
Sure.
But in a way, like, that's not, this game and this style of game doesn't necessarily need to be like the cleanest made thing. It is more so about the narrative and the choices you're making and that kind of thing. So while that is a bit of a negative for me, I'm very excited for episode 2. Like I really want to see where this story goes. I think it is the same actor that played Kara Gee in the show. That is both voice and performance capture.
I will say one thing, and this is for people who've never seen The Expanse. I think the most jarring thing is, and it's something you have to kind of understand, is that a lot of these characters are essentially, they're like bottom dwellers. They live, and a lot of them are born on like mining planets, so they don't have like, they have like artificial gravity, and they have to take like bone supplements to make their bones density higher because they weren't born on Earth. And that like plays into some of the episodes and a lot of like the dynamic. I say that because they all have a very interesting accent,
and
it can definitely throw you at first. Like it grows on you. It grows on you, but it can definitely throw you for a loop when you're like,
I was really glad that I watched some of it, because when they started talking, I was like, oh, right, I forgot they talk like this. It's like a weird like mix of like Scottish and like Afrikaans and like it is so Cajun. Many and Cajun. It's like so many different things at the same time. It's so
really
strange.
Cool. It's really cool when you see it in action and you're like, it does feel like this is like a whole like demographic of people, or like a whole I'm trying to think of the term I'm looking for, like a
culture.
Like a culture. Dialect. It's like a certain dialect where it feels real. All of the characters have like, and that's I think what they did really well in the show, was that all the characters feel like, it's since they all have the same, or like if they're from this one area, they all have the same accent. It doesn't feel like, why is this one person talking like a fucking lunatic?
Right.
Which I think is really cool. But it can definitely be jarring if you have no clue what you're stepping into.
Yeah, I had whiplash for like half a second. I was like, oh wait, no, I remember this. But yeah, I just hope, my biggest hope for it is, because I'm like I said, I'm excited for episode 2. The first one was maybe like 2 hours. I assume it's probably going to be about that for each of them. There is definitely a more, they've seemingly made an effort to make the game more explorable. It's still, small maps, but being in space, like there's some zero G situation. So like it does, even though it still feels janky, it feels better than any Telltale game has ever felt before, for sure. Like, and that's noticeable, which is good. I was hoping for a little bit better, but I just really hope, and I'll report back, that this doesn't fall into the same Telltale kind of pitfalls that a lot of their previous games did for me, where it's like the illusion of choice. We've talked about it on the show before, where like they say like all of this is every choice you make is gonna change everything, and I just hope that. And so often it was like you get to the end, it's like, oh well, the end is still the same. It's just
like
some things changed in the middle.
You say that, but you're not Baldur's Gate 3.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. God, I can't wait to play Baldur's Gate 3.
So.
But yeah, so I hope they don't fall into that pitfall. Like I said, only first episode, so I don't know yet. But I will say, Terry in the chat, hey Terry, can't wait to get into the Expanse. Old Telltale reminds me of a simpler time. It honestly felt really nice playing a Telltale game. And I almost got the urge to download like Walking Dead season 1 and play through that for the like 7th time, because it really, like, there is a nostalgia.
Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Or, oh God, fucking Wolf Among Us season 2 should be coming. I think they said next year. Oh, I can't wait.
Fucking hope so, bro.
I hope so. But yeah, so I would say if you're interested in the Expanse, or if you watch the show and you've never played Telltale, play the game. I like it. I'm in. I'm very excited to keep moving forward. Another game came in that I have not finished, but I'm pretty close to finishing, is Stray Gods, the role-playing musical. This is a game that we've talked about on the show. I, in particular, was excited for this for obvious reasons. I love video games. I love musicals. And the cast on this game is so stacked. We got Troy Baker, Laura Bailey, Ashley Johnson. It's basically The Last of Us. Merle Dandridge, Janina Gavankar,
Merle Dandridge,
Rahul Kohli, Felicia Day, Anthony Rapp.
Fuck.
Like the cast is so insane. And the premise is you play as a god who is a muse. And so she busts into song and like has other people sing around her at times. And so just like, and it's a Greek mythology story set in like the present day. So it's giving Wolf Among Us in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not very good.
Oh.
And I am so disappointed. It's not bad. And Terry in the chat, I started Stray Gods a couple of days ago, and I'm having a good time so far. I'm not having a bad time. I just had such high expectations because of the talent attached to this game. Sure. Troy Baker, music directing. Austin Wintory, Grammy Award-winning composer, composing the music. But I think I have a few issues with this game. The first is the story's pretty basic. I can forgive a basic story if the music's good. The music's not great. If it's a musical, like, you kind of need the music to be good. And ultimately, and this might not, Terry, I wish the musical numbers were written better. The lyrics are trash. Terry, let me know if you agree with me. And for all of my my theater friends that listen to this show, I think you'll resonate with this. It doesn't feel like a musical as much as it feels like a musical improv derogatory. Ooh. Like, these lyrics don't feel like musical lyrics. They feel like someone wrote dialogue and then asked someone to write a melody to it.
So, okay, hold on.
Yes.
A rock opera.
They want it to be, but even a rock opera is still ultimately, because here's the thing with musical theater, with opera, with any kind of song storytelling medium. And I feel like such a fucking nerd, but I went to college for this. The whole point is that they're singing because words can't get across what they need to say, and thus they sing. And I just don't believe that the things that these gods and people are saying aren't worth dialogue. Like, nothing they're saying is like next level, or like, the stakes are so low so often, and I just don't believe that they need to be singing. But that's the thing. Ultimately, my issue is buy this game and play this game, because I think if they could have a second shot at this, I do think this could be something really special. I really love, we've never had a game like this objectively.
So what? Okay, hold on. Let's take a step back.
Let's take a step back.
What the fuck is this game, Patrick?
It is a visual novel through and through. You barely, I mean, like, you don't walk around at all. You just make dialogue decisions. And then there are times where, like in a Telltale game, you would walk around the environment, point at things and click them. On the right-hand side of the screen is just a menu of things that you can interact with if you want. Might be objects, might be people to talk to. You just go down the list, click, you'll get dialogue. You can make choices if there are choices. And then eventually, like, you'll click the thing that they need you to click to move the plot forward.
Patrick,
that's it.
This sounds boring as shit.
It kind of is. And that is kind of, I think, where it really takes a backseat to potentially being cool. The musical theater fucking art side of my brain wants to kind of pick at it from a creative standpoint. But the gaming podcaster of me also wants to say, Terry, also, I don't know if you've had this issue. It seems like this game, and I hate saying this, but it seems like this game was released way ahead of schedule in a bad way. For a game that really is just a story being told, the sound quality is maybe the worst I've ever experienced in a game.
Okay. This is the role-playing musical.
I know.
Sound quality is bad, Patrick.
The singing quality, for the most part, is fine. But there are times when two characters are talking, and one person will be talking at this volume, and then the next person will be talking at this volume, and it'll go back and forth. And then it'll flip-flop, and all of a sudden person A that was so quiet is the loud one, and person B is whispering. So but it's just a volume issue. It's not like a performance issue.
In cinema, we call that sound mixing.
The sound mixing is so bad in this game.
God. Okay, you've sold me on this game, Patrick.
And I accidentally deleted my save.
Oh, no.
Here's the thing. I'm 2 acts into this 3-act game. And I'm in the middle of a story. It's like a big moment, or I'm about to finish act 2 of this game. Big moment. And I realize that it's going away. And I'm like, you know what? This is my story. I'm going to fucking save scum this. I'm going to quit, come back in and do this song again and make a different choice. But the menu of this game is so unclear in what you're pressing that instead of clicking continue, I clicked new game. And then it like immediately started a new game for me and completely erased my save. So I had to redo like 2.5 hours.
I dig the art style though.
The art style is great. And like, it's such a pretty thing to look at. The character design is awesome. It's got that Hades thing going for it where like everyone's fucking hot as shit.
Hell yeah,
and
brother.
Most of them are fucking bi, or like everyone is like, you can have sex with basically everybody.
Everybody's fucking everybody.
Everybody's fucking everybody because they're gods, and it's great. But I'm so conflicted on this because I want people to support this studio so that they can have another shot, or at the very least tell the business people that this is a game type that we want again. But I also can't say that it's good. And so I'm at the, like, it's $30. It's not nothing, but it's also not 70. So like, it's definitely, and you know, I'm in act 3 of a 3-act story. So like, and I will say where I'm at, I don't know where you are, Terry, but where I'm at, like, I am finally really interested to see what's about to happen. It's like the first time so far that I'm like legitimately invested in the story, but it took me more than 2/3 of the story to get there. And it just, I don't know. I'm the most conflicted I think I've been in a long time on this game because I really want to like it, but I just don't know that I can. I'll give a final kind of impression next week because I'll probably honestly finish it either tonight or tomorrow. I don't think there's very much left. I think How Long to Beat says it just takes 3 hours. And you know, if I pretend I didn't have to restart the game over, I've probably played for about 2.5 hours. So I don't know, man. Here's what I'll say. This is my parting message before we move on. If you like musicals, if you like Greek mythology, if you like to play a game unlike any game you've ever played before, give the game a shot. Maybe you'll like the music more than I do. Maybe you'll like the story more than I do. And I assume by the time you buy it, the technical stuff will be fixed. But if none of that interests you, or if you're more interested in the gameplay side of it, there is none. It's just dialogue choices. So don't play it. And then final thought. Terry makes a really good point. I wish I wasn't a musical theater person because then I might like this game more, but I agree, play the game. That's the thing. I think I'm coming at this a little more harshly than an average critic because I have musical theater Patrick, director brain, it's Patrick nerd going.
It's okay.
But anyway, that's Stray Gods, the role-playing musical. Any lingering questions from you, Cayman, before we move
on? Oddly enough, none.
Great. I was gonna say that we could talk about kind of put a final button on Twisted Metal season 1, but just watch it. I really enjoyed the rest of it.
I have a final button, Patrick.
Okay, great.
I don't know if you saw the news that came out, but Peacock said that Twisted Metal season 1 was their most binged original series.
It's a huge success.
Yeah. So what's also fucking weird, Patrick, before we move on?
What?
Apparently, Gran Turismo movie is currently fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it really? I have seen mostly not good reviews.
Same. Everyone kind of was like, it's right there in that middle where you can have fun, but it's stupid.
Got
it. And also apparently they shoehorn in a lot of you should play Gran Turismo, which let's be honest, probably shouldn't.
Sure.
Unless you're Bennett or Gray.
Fucking nerds. Fucking VR. Fucking nerds.
Fucking nerds.
God damn it. I love them both. But yeah, watch Twisted Metal. If you haven't watched Twisted Metal, I mean, you're about to not have anything new for a long time anyway. So watch it because I really liked it. Cayman?
Yes, sir.
This is normally where I would say, Cayman, what have you been playing?
It's true. It's normally what you said that.
So for the sake of doing the things we always do, I'm going to say, Cayman, what have you been playing?
Okay. Patrick, I've been playing nothing.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Here's the thing, guys. And we run a video game podcast, and this is one of those things you just don't think can happen to people who's one of their main hobbies is playing games. But I've got video game burnout.
Yeah.
I had to put aside Final Fantasy because I'd hit a point where I was like, I'm really enjoying this game, but I don't have the energy anymore to invest in this. And I went through, I was like, well, maybe it's a me problem, or it's not a game problem. And I don't think at all it's a game problem. It's a me problem. So maybe there's something else out there that maybe it'll kind of kick my interest and appease me, something that could get me there, right? I dug through the entire PlayStation Summer Sale. I went through my entire backlog.
Yeah.
I even, Patrick, I'll tell you where we are right now. I even was like, what about we go to the old reset? Hit the reset button. Bulletstorm.
Oh, no.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't even do Bulletstorm.
Couldn't even do it, Patrick. It was a sombering moment.
If you're an ongoing listener of this podcast, that tells you what kind of state we're in. If Cayman couldn't even play Burnout. I read the word Burnout. Bulletstorm.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, and it was a sombering moment, Patrick, where I had to take a minute to really sit there and think on this and be like, the fuck is wrong with me? And then it dawned on me. I was like, I put 40 plus hours in Diablo 4.
Yeah.
I put 40 or around 30 plus hours into Final Fantasy back to back. And then before Diablo 4, it was fucking 70 hours in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking ahead and I'm like, this week, Texas Chainsaw Massacre launches. Yeah. And then in a couple more weeks, we get Starfield. We get the console launch of Baldur's Gate. We have so many games coming out.
Yeah.
None of this excites me.
Yeah.
Where normally I would be like, this is so exciting. This is so much. And I think I've hit a point this year in this moment in time. Now, this could change tomorrow. Tomorrow I could wake up, be a whole different boy, right? Brand new boy. But I sat there and I said, "Jeez, fucking Christ! I lack the mental energy to devote to something like this." And I think one of the reasons is because games, one, there's a shit ton of games this year. And I know we've had people decry this from the audience. But all of these games too are 40, 50, 60 plus hours. On top of the fact that apparently Starfield, they're claiming, can be up to 400 hours of gameplay in Starfield. And I've checked out. I've mentally checked out.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, who has this time in their life?
Right.
And so I hit this moment. And you know what, Patrick? Here's the thing. I said to myself, and this has been a struggle, you know. And so I was like, okay, I'm like, this is crazy. This is fucking crazy. So I did something wild, Patrick.
You sucked your own dick.
I tried.
Yeah.
I am also found out I am not flexible.
Yeah, no, me either.
Actually, Sydney and I have been every morning. We've been doing yoga, a 15-minute yoga session in the morning. My back has been like really, really bad lately. And so I've been trying to do yoga to try to stretch out my back, which honestly has been, it's been helping a little bit.
Yoga with Adrian on YouTube?
I don't know who the lady's name is.
Does she have a dog named Benji?
No, she doesn't.
Okay.
She's like a way too attractive person. And then it kind of upsets me because I'm like, fake. Fucking AI. So I did something, Patrick. I picked up and I read a book. Okay?
Which
and then I read another.
2 books.
And then I finished the 5th book. And then I picked up a 6th book and have just ordered 2 more to be delivered this week.
My little reader.
I'm reading 2 books every couple days. Okay?
Are they in a series or you're just bebopping
just
around?
Fucking random ass books. I read a lot of, okay, this is kind of off topic, but I've been reading a lot of splatterpunk. That's like my favorite subject. It's basically trash cinema for books.
Hell yeah.
It's like, it gets like, you really get in there, like Serbian level deep of like fucked up shit. Yes, we don't want to talk about that too much, but if you're interested in horror and you don't mind getting grisly, I got a shit ton of recommendations because that's all I can do right now.
Sure.
Just been reading.
Have you dabbled at all in the hockey romance genre?
No, that's the one thing I haven't done is the hockey romance novels, but I've heard they're great. This one thing I did realize though, Patrick, because a lot of these books have a lot of like a lot of sex in them, sex sells. And you know what I realized? I'm not into smut.
Oh, sure.
Like
doesn't do anything for you.
You can do like just crazy gore stuff and it doesn't faze me. But once you start talking about like sex, I'm just like, I'm turned off.
Interesting.
I'm turned off. It's like that was like the one thing I always skipped through when I read American Psycho. I'd always skip through those parts.
Well,
that's So
it's also fucking graphic.
Yeah. So but yeah, no. So I've just been reading, Patrick. I've just been reading. It's wild to me. And so my question to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten video game burnout?
Absolutely.
And what is your remedy for video game burnout?
So I've definitely gotten video game burnout, and partially I've had it with the podcast a few times since we've been doing it. Because there's that, there's that kind of onus that we put on ourselves, but that like we have a new episode next week. I need to talk about something other than the news in terms of, we always talk about what we're playing and like, well, we could always skip that segment if we don't have anything new to say. And sometimes it's very short. But there's that kind of self-imposed pressure of always kind of wanting to be up to date for the sake of a pod. I mean, because we love to be, but also, we don't want to necessarily come across as like we don't know what we're talking about. So that's definitely been part of it. But I think there have also just been times, and I think oftentimes for me, the burnout comes when it's not because of the games. It's because of life, whether it's just stressors, whether it's just a lot of other things that need to be done, or I'm just a sad boy at the time. Like there are just times that you kind of want that escape in a video game to kind of help you feel better. And then it doesn't. And then you're like, well, fuck. What am I
That's a
doing
good
here?
point.
So there's that for sure. But I think for me, the most recently, like just taking a step back, I think has been helpful. Like there have been some times with the podcast where I have tried to like take as much of a break during the week and then like the day before the podcast play a little something that I can talk about, or even the day of the podcast play something to talk about, so that I kind of get that draw to go back instead of saying
Sure.
I should do this because I have time and because I have the obligation of finishing this game. Instead, waiting until I get back to a point of like, I actually want to do this, because I think that for me has been a big part of it is, oh, I have free time, I should just do this because I can, as opposed to I actually want to see what's next. Kind of like with Stray Gods, like there, I could see at a time of being like, having burnout, and then I'm playing Stray Gods, and I'm like, nope, never touching that again.
There's definitely like a level of guilt to it as well when you're like, I paid $70 for this and I can't
Oh,
get through it, and it feels,
absolutely.
it's not like, and I think though it's even worse too. Like there was that moment where I spent all the money, I spent money to get fucking Fallout or fucking Far Cry 6, I think
Oh
it was.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that game sucked ass. I was like, man, I just wasted $60 on a game that I hate. But there's a different level of like guilt when it's like I am having to put aside a game I spent $70 on that's really good.
yeah,
And and I think it's true. And I don't know. I think that it was important. This conversation to me was important because I think you're right. With us doing what we do put like an extra level of stress on, like we have to stay current. So we have to try to burn through things very
yeah.
quickly. And I think that's one of those things that like kind of sucks. I was reading a thing on Reddit the other day, but a guy was like so proud of himself because he was like, I just finished Elden Ring. It's like, cool. He's like, I bought it day one. And I was like, what the flying fuck? Dude, listen to this. Listen to this guy. This guy's fucking insane. Never looked at a guide.
Wow.
Never looked at a guide. The guy's talking. He's like, yeah, I've got like a 2-year-old, so I get a lot of time to play video games. So I get
Yeah.
like an hour a day that like I might be able. And so he's like, and with Elden Ring, there's no pause menu. Fuck you, FromSoft, and all of the games that think that that's what they should do because that's what Souls likes to do. It's so stupid. Put a fucking pause menu in your game, you assholes.
I agree.
Even if you don't give us an easy mode, just put a pause menu in. It can't be hard to code a pause menu.
I agree. It's
Or
bullshit.
maybe it's not. You deleted an entire save file out of the Stray Gods.
True.
Maybe it is tough.
True.
But yeah, the dude apparently was just like, yeah, that's what he did. He would put in like 30 minutes to an hour, never looked at a guide.
Amazing.
Took him like 200 hours to beat the game.
Sounds great.
And it took him like, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, this dude's living the dream.
Yeah.
This dude's living the dream. He's not constrained by like what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And in a world, and I think that's part of my burnout right now, is it is a situation where a lot of these games are very long. And then also it's like they're very long, and it's also like, but you need to get through it very quickly because the next big thing is on the horizon.
Right.
And
then it sucks that enjoyment out.
Yeah, and that's I think where I think I've hit that point where I've like that enjoyment's dried up because I'm like, I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm like, we have like Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, and I'm just going through the laundry list of shit. And I'm like, dude, this is insane. I know we've talked at great length about it. Have there been too many video games this year? But like, I don't think the other side of that conversation, I don't think we ever addressed was like, do you fly too close to the sun?
Yeah. I definitely, like, for this fall, when really it starts on the 6th of September, so not even the fall, when Starfield and Baldur's Gate come out on console. There are times that you'll ask me, or like people that listen ask me, like, how are you playing so many games? And I spend a lot of my free time doing this. And I look at and that's at the pace we've been getting it, which has been often, but like we're about to get like 14 games in the span of like 2.5 weeks, essentially. And so I'm just going to before we get to that point, pick like the 2 that I want to play, because there's no way I'm not going to be able to do all of it, because then it'll ruin the enjoyment of them. Like next we're going to be talking about Tears of the Kingdom. I finally just finished it. I mean, that game came out 2 months ago, 3 months, 3 months ago, right? May.
Yeah.
And I immediately realized as I was playing it how special this game was, and so I made the very specific choice. I am not going to rush this, because even if that means that I'm not going to be able to have like the most meaningful conversations to start about the game, I would rather have a better experience playing it than make better content, essentially. You know, a very specific, most people listening don't think in those terms when playing a video game, but that's why it took me 3 months to beat it. It's like I want to savor this. I don't want to rush through this. But there are going to be some games this fall that I'll absolutely have to rush through, and that sucks.
Yeah, and that's it. Now for me, I say that right now. Look,
there it is.
There it is. There's my book with, you know what? Let me page mark so I don't lose it. With
Maggie's
my
Grave.
Bart Harley Jarvis sticker is my bookmark. That son of a bitch. But yeah, man. So I've turned to books to be kind of the saving grace. It's something that I don't know, for me right now. That's how I'm staving off this overwhelming feeling of like,
yeah.
And you know, here's the thing. I'm looking forward. There's a point where I am looking forward to some things. Like I'm looking forward to Spider-Man specifically.
Yeah. That was gonna be my next question. Like the rest of this year, like if you were only to do one game the rest of the year, what would it be?
Spider-Man 2? I think Spider-Man 2 is the game that like there's still excitement there, but like Starfield to me, it just seems like a monumental task. Baldur's Gate 3, fuck off. Yeah. I want to play that game. I want to play that game, but God, fuck you. It's one of those, and it's interesting. And so we are where we are. And I guess my parting message to the audience, Patrick, if you so do, let me do, is hey, it's okay. Even us, the people who talk about this shit every other week. I mean, every week or every other week. You know, we have that too. That feeling where we have to just put the controller aside and do something else to take to fill that void in us.
Yeah. And hey, if you do think it's outside life things, consider talking to a therapist if you don't. Because hey, maybe these things could potentially be connected. I'm no doctor.
If my wife is listening, yes, Cindy, I know I need to talk to a therapist too. Thank you.
We honestly, we all do.
And Patrick's wife. If Patrick's wife's listening, yes, Rose, I know I need to talk to a therapist.
I've been saying this for years. I mean, I need to talk to a therapist. We all should talk to therapists. I'm sure all of us would have a better quality of life if we talked to somebody. So we should all do that. Cayman.
Yes.
To close out the show.
No.
All right. That's our show, folks.
I got him.
You texted me earlier this week, or actually last week, and you said, Cayman, you said, Patrick, you said, I'm Cayman. Patrick, I'm having video game burnout. No, you said, you asked me the question, should Tears of the Kingdom be game of the year? I asked our audience, I asked myself, but before we jump into any of it, I want to turn it over to you so that you can set the stage for this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No. It's Tears of the Kingdom will not be game of the year. I know. I said it. And I know there's a lot of people screaming right now. Cayman, what are you talking about? Here's the thing. This is where the peelers. I might not have played a video game in 2 weeks. but I still have my finger on the pulse, right?
Okay.
And this is something I brought up to you about Tears of the Kingdom. When Breath of the Wild launched, like Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild was talked about for a solid year. And this is not a situation in which like Breath of the Wild launched in like a dead year.
Sure.
That's not the case at all.
We Very busy year that year.
One of the greatest open world games, action RPGs of all time, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
We had the last 3D, the last true 3D Mario game with Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, amongst a bunch of other really good games.
Control, I think, was that year. Like, it was a great year.
Really good games that year. But Breath of the Wild's conversation lasted a solid year. It still was brought up until Tears of the Kingdom came out. It was still brought up all the time on like what was going to be the next Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Okay. Elden Ring launches last year. As we all know, Elden Ring launched aside God of War Ragnarok, one of the greatest games ever made. People talked about Elden Ring all year. People are still talking about Elden Ring. We have Armor Core
about it on
6.
this podcast.
We got Armor Core 6 coming out. And people are getting hyped over that because they're still hyped over Elden Ring. But the thing with Tears of the Kingdom, even though to me, Tears of the Kingdom is a much better game than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild walked so that Tears of the Kingdom could run. And I think Tears of the Kingdom does so many things that are so outlandish. It is a technical marvel. It is a masterpiece of a game, Patrick.
Yes, I agree.
Baldur's Gate 3 will be Game of the Year. Because here's the thing. And this is what I think is crazy. The last Baldur's Gate came out 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The conversation around Baldur's Gate right now is changing the scope of AAA games. Whereas Breath of the Wild did the same thing. We have developers on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It is still fucking Twitter. That are complaining that like it's not fair that Baldur's Gate exists because it will create a misconception that RPGs will be like that. It is a monumental task, whatever this is happening. And I haven't touched this game. I don't need to touch this game to tell you that. Like the conversation around this game is something that is it. The only thing I can compare it to is Elden Ring and is Breath of the Wild. And I think the one thing, and I could say like Tears of the Kingdom, it is fucking incredible. But that conversation, and it could be the fact that this year it has too many games.
Yeah, I mean, compared to 2017, there are a lot more this year.
Yeah.
Continue.
So and sure, it very well could be. But I think the thing is, the conversation, I'm not hearing really anyone. Like the memes and everything, like they still trickle out from time to time, and people still will bring it up, you know. And it's not like the game, people have like stopped talking entirely about it. But like the lasting impact of it, I don't think is carrying over the same way that I look at something like Baldur's Gate. Now, hear me out.
Yeah.
Starfield could drop. And Starfield could be that, where they're like, this is the revolution. This is where games go next. Very well could happen. I don't think so. I think we really need to, like I said before, I don't know. I get this gut feeling of pump the brakes a little bit on Starfield. I still worry about how it's going to run and perform on Series S to the point that I don't know if it will. I think it will, but I think we might have a Cyberpunk situation on our hands.
Could.
But I think Baldur's Gate 3 is one of those things where it's like, you don't even need to like you don't need to play the game to see the conversation taking place where people are like, it's insane. I just saw something. Apparently, you can beat the game in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's a way to do it that the developers designed specifically in the game to cause you to literally like skip through time if you do one very specific action.
Amazing.
Which is fucking incredible to me. The fact that like if you take too long of a rest, you can miss entire story beats, could just gone. And it's these weird things where, and you can have sex with a bear. So like, there's things. And I think Tears of the Kingdom, its hang up, and I'm going to say this, and people are going to be like, hey man, what are you talking about? I think it being a sequel, it's going to hurt it. And what I hear people say is Baldur's Gate 3, what does the 3 stand for, dickhead? The last Baldur's Gate came out, and it was revolutionary when it came out, was 15 years ago.
Right. A totally different game.
Yeah. And I think the thing is with Tears of the Kingdom, where it might get the hang up, is they go, while we can say, yes, the map is the exact same on top, there's a whole okay, it's almost 100% identical. Underneath, there's a whole other world. But the whole other world is very limited in what you can do. There's like one temple down there, and there's not really a lot else. And there's a lot you can find. There's a lot of stuff that goes on and all these things. It's really cool. Don't get me wrong. I feel like this sounds like I'm shitting on Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm absolutely not. Tears of the Kingdom is great. But I think at the end of the year, when we talk about Game of the Year, I think the conversation is not going to be a situation of like, what was the most fun? or what was the most played, even though Baldur's Gate 3, I think, just actually set the record for most concurrent players ever on Steam.
It almost did. It was like 4,000 short.
No way.
It was nearly 1 million concurrent players. It was like 855,000. And it was like, weirdly, earlier this year, Hogwarts Legacy still holds the record. It was literally like 3,000 more than what they ended up peaking at. Insane.
Mind blown. So I think my thing is like, you look at that, right? And you go, something's happening here.
Yeah.
And while I think Tears of the Kingdom is a fucking amazing game and borderlines perfection in terms of all of what it does, I think that conversation, when they start racking up the tally points at the end and they go, we get to that point where they're like, all right, what's the game? It's going to come down to 2 games that are 10s. But which one of those ones has changed the face of the way AAA gaming goes forward? And I think that Baldur's Gate takes the edge on that.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Unpack it, baby.
The obvious caveat being I haven't touched Baldur's Gate 3, but I plan to. And I will say, if you had 3 weeks ago said, we're going to be talking about a game on the podcast that might be Game of the Year over Tears of the Kingdom, and I look at all of these games coming in the fall, Starfield, Spider-Man, Alan Wake 2, a new Mario game, Baldur's Gate 3 would have been bottom of the list. But the truth is, it has surprised all of us with what it's capable of, the story it's telling, and the kind of game it is. Just as an outsider looking in, I can see that this game is special, which is why I've talked so many times on this podcast about, like, I really want to buy a gaming PC. Never have I been so close to pulling out the credit card for a gaming PC than the FOMO of Baldur's Gate 3. Even though the game is coming out on PlayStation the same day as Starfield, I'm reading a lot of things. I'm hearing a lot of things like, you're going to want to play this game on PC. It feels so much better on PC for people that have played it like on Steam Deck or played with a controller on PC. This is a mouse and keyboard game through and through. It's kind of what the messaging seems to be from people who have played the game. So all of that to say, like, I'm going to play this game and I'm very excited to play this game. I do wonder though, if, and I say this as someone who does this all the time, if this is recency bias, because the game just dropped 2 weeks ago. Tears of the Kingdom been out nearly 3 full months. Baldur's Gate just came out. So, like, naturally it makes sense that the conversation would be at its loudest now. So I'm super interested a month from now, when it's been out on consoles for a couple weeks, are we still at this volume? And then a month and a half from now, when it's been, a month past console launch, are we still at this kind of momentum for Baldur's Gate? We very well could be. I don't know. I obviously can't look into the future, but I do wonder if there's a recency bias thing.
Look, I don't disagree that very well could be the case. I think the big thing for me when I'm looking at this is we had that conversation earlier about the new Telltale game.
Yeah.
And your concern was that faux choice.
Yeah.
And from all intents and purposes, from everything I've seen, from everything I've heard, Baldur's Gate's that everyone has said, like, this is all those moments that you're like, do my choices actually impact anything? This is the first game that it actually does.
Sure.
And
it's a real D&D type experience.
And so I think the thing is, when you think about an RPG, you think about that, right? You think about things like Mass Effect that really kind of ushered in that, like, oh, if you do things, characters can die. Like, things can go wrong if you make the wrong choices. This game, like, has elevates this to a different level, and it's just, I don't know, man. I think your point earlier though was very accurate. Of, like, surprise the hell out of us.
Surprise the fuck.
Like, I was excited to play this game, and if it wasn't for the fact that, like, I know that this game is a huge time sink because it's just so much content that, like, it's like, that's overwhelming to me, is this idea of, like, I can't take that on. But, like, there's something there that's, like, really exciting to me of, like, we could, like, this could be, like, we could see future games. We could see Horizon, whatever the fuck the sequel is good, the trequel is going to be to the Horizon series, take on elements where, like, you can do things. Maybe you can resurrect Lance Reddick. I don't know. But like you're
Rest in
like
peace.
that what they can do is like we are now seeing that they're capitalizing on the technology to be able to do things we never thought possible. That's somehow been coded in. This like
Sure.
this feeling, this true feeling of like anything like you do. You can do whatever you want. You can stack 50 boxes. You can if you're a druid, you can then change into an owl bear, enlarge yourself, and then do an elbow drop off of 50 boxes and kill a dragon in one hit. It's the same Tears of the Kingdom
I was about
argument.
to say though, you
it's
kind
the
of are
same
describing Tears of the Kingdom.
It's the same Tears of the Kingdom argument. But that's the point, Patrick. I'm over here sweating. I'm dripping in fucking sweat right now, Patrick.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing.
It's like you can make the same argument, but this is new.
But this is different.
Interesting.
And that's, I think, where it steps up. That's the whole thing. You get 2 10s. You get 2 fucking Juggernaut Titans. Fucking Final Fantasy 16 Titan fucking beast bitch boys just punching each other in the guts. And which one's going to come out on top? And for me, it's not the one that recycles a lot of the same stuff. It's something that is so different that I think it takes the edge.
Here's my thing though. I hear you so deeply and I see you so clearly in front of me.
Dripping.
Dripping. I can feel the drip.
If you're watching live, you can see the glistening in my hair getting more and more glistening.
And what I'm about to say, I mean with the utmost respect and with nothing but love. It's clear to me that you didn't finish Tears of the Kingdom, because I think as someone who I capped out at about 170 hours, that game continued to surprise me every hour for 170 hours. And for the most part, you are right about the depths. There isn't a ton there, but there's a lot more there than you think. He said there's a temple. There's more than that. It doesn't seem like you came across. There's all sorts of shit in the sky that completely opens up parts of the game.
You're right. I forgot about the sky.
And even though it is the same map, the amount of things that they did to said map on the ground level to make it feel different, looking at Kakariko Village as an example, like kind of one of the hubs of game 1, completely different feeling and vibe to that city in part 2. I can't think of the name of it, but there's the city like southeast. It's like a fishing village, completely taken over by pirates in Tears of the Kingdom. And so they
have to
add this kind of new vibe to a lot of the things that you recognize from 1. So I do think, even though it is technically the same map, like for the most part, I do think that they did a good enough job of making it honestly feel completely different in a lot of ways than the first one. Ultimately, there is truth to what you say, though. Like, it is still Breath of the Wild's Hyrule.
Can I make an analogy?
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild is Goku.
Okay. I hope I get this analogy because I'm not a DBZ
Tears
boy.
of the Kingdom is Goku Super Saiyan.
Okay.
And from what I understand, Baldur's Gate 3 is Goku Super Saiyan God.
Even though I don't watch DBZ, I understand.
Yeah, there's the high, the tier. And here, the tears. Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, look, here's the thing. At the end of the day, when we get to Game of the Year, I don't know what's going to happen, Patrick.
Yeah.
And I think, but I love this. I love this because when Tears of the Kingdom launched, everyone was like, look, Starfield has to be a 10.
Yeah.
There's no world in which Starfield has to change the fucking game for Tears of the Kingdom to not win Game of the Year.
Yeah.
No one thought that we were going to end up in a situation halfway through August. And here's the other thing too. This is why I think is both brilliant and also bonkers to me. One, the conversation, everyone's so hyped about this game. If you don't have a gaming PC, which I feel like a lot of people don't, apparently 1 million people do, almost 1 million people do, or 1 million people do. Console still hasn't launched yet. So there's going to be another wave of people that have a PlayStation 5 that are going to play this game.
Yeah.
and that's also, I think, going to add to the conversation. But going back to it, it's like the whole thing is this idea in my head of like, we never thought we were going to be here. We didn't think anything was going to stand up against it. And the fact that we do legitimately have a contender against what arguably could be considered one of the greatest open world games of all time. Video games are awesome.
Video games are awesome. Here, can I bring in a member of our audience?
Yeah, I would love you to.
A lovely member of our audience, Nick. Sweet Nick. I put up on our Instagram stories yesterday as a recording this question. What do you think? He texted me. He's like, hey, if I have more to say than can fit in the thing, can I message it to you guys? I was like, please. And this, if you're hearing this goes for all of our prompts in the future. If you ever want to say more than what the box lets you, fucking message me. Fucking email me, baby. He sent me some thoughts, came in, but there's a lot of good shit in here, so I want to read it. Still have a couple of months left, but as of now, yes. To the question, should Tears of the Kingdom be Game of the Year? So I am like Cayman right now, where I really love Final Fantasy 16. I'm finishing the Platinum right now, but until I do, yes, Tears of the Kingdom is my Game of the Year. Improvements that made me like it more than Breath of the Wild, and why it deserves the spot. Number one. We always talk about creativity and changing the formula. I think of the last 2 Game of the Year winners, including Cayman's It Takes Two. Have you seen the amount of videos just from Japan on the inventions made from the mechanics? The game doesn't even need to be beat to make it a fun experience. The mechanics are incredible. Number 2, improvements from Breath of the Wild. From minor small details of opening the map being less annoying to big details like making weapons stronger to resist breaking while still keeping true to the world of Breath of the Wild is how you improve a game's formula. 3, the stakes. The story is important to me in games, and to finally put a face to Calamity Ganon and his true evil, the risk Zelda took, no spoilers, to save the world, to Link being full power and just desecrated in the first few minutes and to fight back, not to mention the side quest improvements. Number 4, top, middle, bottom, enough said. He's referring to the levels of the world. For a Switch game is breathtaking. I could go on and on, but I feel like it hits Cayman's criteria based on what I've heard him talk about. 1, does it impact him or at least most people? Yes. 2, if it's a new game or a sequel, does it innovate and improve on the previous game's flaws? Yes. 3, is the villain story or stakes high? Yes. 4, is the content out of the main story great? And if no, is the content outside, like It Takes Two? Does it hold its own as a replayable game and one you would tell people about? Yes. 5, is it not a game called Kingdom Hearts? Yes.
True.
This is a good question, and the year is not done, but for now, it's my Game of the Year, even though I am biased and Final Fantasy 16 is the first game to make me cry since the original God of War. He makes a lot of good points here, but also hasn't touched Baldur's Gate 3. And I think something that I didn't quite understand about your angle here was the Baldur's Gate 3 of it all. But what do you think about some of those little nuggets Nick threw us?
I think he nailed it on the head of like what the criteria should be, especially when he's referencing like what the criteria should be for a sequel. And I think that's why something like Horizon Forbidden West never came up in our conversations regarding would it be game of the year compared to God of War Ragnarok or Elden Ring. And I think the reason that Elden Ring ended up beating God of War last year was because there was nothing like Elden Ring before. We had Souls-likes, we had that kind of shit, but Elden Ring's different. Sure. Elden Ring was much different. And though I think that God of War just fucking excelled on every single plane, I think that when it comes down to it and you think about like what's the game of that year, like what innovates the most, I think that's where a lot of this lies. And I think he made some very valiant points, especially that it's not Kingdom Hearts. Maybe that will be the game that gets me out of my video game burnout is going back and playing going and playing the Kingdom Hearts collection. Actually, I might give that a whirl just to see what the fuck. I'll probably give up. I'll probably give up the first time they say a name I can't pronounce.
That might turn your burnout into stone, and you'll never.
Yeah, dude, I just completely ashed out. Just dump me out in the woods at that point. But yeah, I think that's. And here's the thing: is Baldur's Gate a game that I would actually enjoy?
That's a great question.
Here's the thing: I don't know, and I'm honestly leaning towards probably not.
Yeah.
But
What do
that's,
you
I
think
think,
about it? That is it the role playing dice rolling of it
no,
all,
I
or
don't think it's the dice. I think it's just like the gameplay mechanic of like the. I'm not as big on like the point and click. I want to be able to
yeah,
be more like
sure,
hands on with that, and be able to like move my character more freely in a sense. I think the dice roll is a really cool mechanic. I think that's really smart and definitely feels like you're playing. You're like, look, this is a game. For one, I probably the best thing I saw was someone explain it as like Baldur's Gate 3 is Dungeons and Dragons for people who don't have friends. Which like that's awesome. Living out in the mountains, I can't unless I do virtual Dungeons and Dragons, which is I
sure,
don't think would be as fun as sitting around a table shit hammer with my buddies.
yeah,
But yeah, here's the thing, I don't know. Like I really don't like and don't get me wrong, I went into Tears of the Kingdom being like, well, I didn't like Breath of the Wild that much.
yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So there's a chance I would. But if I had to, I would say that I probably would enjoy the gameplay aspects more of Tears of the Kingdom than just from the gameplay I've seen of Baldur's Gate.
I do think I do want to say I give you definite agreement from me. The weirdest possible way I could have said that, but I'm formulating my thought that a new has an advantage over a known quantity when it comes to deciding game of the year, because there's all like it's always exciting to experience something new versus something that you've experienced before. And even though I will be the first to go to the mat for Tears of the Kingdom saying that it really does feel like a completely different game than Breath of the Wild to me, I mean, it still controls the same. It's still like you can tell it's built in the same engine. It's in the same space. It's like it very much feels like, for all intents and purposes, at its most basic, it does feel like Breath of the Wild, even though there are a lot of things that make it far superior and really kind of freshens that formula up. Like your point with Elden Ring and God of War last year. I think if we were to go back 15 years and looked at every game of the year winner and what it was up against, I bet we would see a lot of new quantities outperform known quantities for sure. So then the question is, does Tears of the Kingdom have the power as the known quantity to beat something new like this, or like Starfield when that comes out in September?
And I think the other thing too is something that we I don't know, like maybe we're not really mentioning, but I think if Breath of the Wild came out the year after, I think Mario Odyssey probably was going to win Game of the Year.
It was definitely, yeah, I think so too.
And so Mario Odyssey, one could say, well, that's pretty much just a sequel. It's a known quantity, but it's not, right? It's something very different. That game was so different than like any Mario that came before it. And that's what, you want to look for that. And while I do think there's so many nice enhancements and tweaks and little things that make the game much better, and there's so many cool little things like shooting your ass up in the sky, landing on an island, using shit to fly around, do all that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I really don't want this to sound like I'm being harsh on Tears of the Kingdom, because I'm not. This is specifically and solely when it comes down to like what is going to win Game of the Year at the Game Awards. And I think from what I've seen, from what I've heard, from the reaction, I would put my money, if we were putting money down right now, Patrick.
Yeah.
I would without a doubt. And you know me, I don't like betting.
Yeah.
I would put money down Baldur's Gate 3 right now. Obviously, everything could change once Starfield comes out, and that could be very different. I don't think fucking Spider-Man 2, as much as I think that game is going to do really, really, really well and score really, really, really well, and probably be my personal game of the year, which might be tough to beat out Final Fantasy 16, but probably would be my personal game of the year. I still don't think that game is going to even have a shot in hell.
Yeah.
Against the Baldur's Gate and Tears of the Kingdom.
Here's a great question from the chat. I can't even. Who will be the baby of the year?
That's it. Fucking, I'm done here. I'm done here. This isn't working.
Very good, Rose. Final thought, and then we'll close out the show. I do think it's incredibly interesting. You made the point about concurrence on Steam, that it almost broke the record. The amount of sales that Baldur's Gate 3 has on one console, PC, is staggering. And then at the moment, the number one kind of contender against it is Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is also setting sales records. And then you look at last year, God of War Ragnarok, one of the highest selling games, Elden Ring, the highest selling game other than Call of Duty. That doesn't count. But it's just interesting to me that there happens to be in, a 2-year sample, really fucking high sales also in line with game of the year contenders, which is an interesting thing. The market speaks that, hey, this game is fucking great.
In November, Hogwarts Legacy gets launched on Switch.
Yeah.
And it's going to perform there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, Zelda has a few million of a lead over Hogwarts, but I don't know that it's going to hold that when Hogwarts
I think my prediction was Hogwarts was going to be the best-selling game of. Well, here's the thing, and this is where I think things are going to get weird. Nintendo doesn't release their digital Switch, so like they have to sell all physical.
Yeah.
So maybe not.
Yeah, our bet specifically was, I said Tears of the Kingdom would outsell Hogwarts. You said Hogwarts would outsell Tears of the Kingdom. And so it's just those two games pitted against
each other. Which is pretty cool that we end up in that situation.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Because Call of Duty is going to be the best-selling game. It always is every single year. But yeah, right now, as of 2 weeks ago, Legend of Zelda was at 18.5 million when Nintendo released theirs. And then let's see what Hogwarts Legacy is at right now. As of May, 15 million. So it honestly might even be at 18 at this point in 3 more months. But
and yeah, we're not even considering the fact that for a fact that Legend Tears of the Kingdom is not going to get a discount at Christmas. Absolutely. It might get a little bit of a bump there, but the truth is, I think Black Friday sales, Hogwarts Legacy will go on discount, and that shit's going to fucking be sold out.
Yes.
I still think that there's a good shot that game, but then again, 3 million, that's a lot.
The crazy thing though is, I think depending on how close the number is, we can probably agree. If the number is close, it's probably Legend of Zelda, because we don't have the digital sales for Legend of Zelda. Because the fact that it's 18.5 million physical in 3 months is staggering. The Switch, man, it is a special fucking console. That game is already the 9th best-selling game on Switch. And when it's all said and done, will probably be top 5.
Pretty crazy.
But let us know. What do you think? Where do you align in the Tears of the Kingdom Game of the Year conversation? Would you think it can be one of the games coming out this fall? Do you think it's going to be Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate, something that already came out, Hogwarts Legacy perhaps? Let us know. Mail at spotlightgames.net, or you can DM us on Twitter, SpotGamesPod, or everything else, Spotlight Games Pod. But Cayman, I want to really close out the show with our game release update calendar. Calendar update. Game release update calendar. Calendar update game release. How was that? Got a couple updates for you. Nintendo Online, the Pokemon card trading game on Game Boy, now available. Pokemon Stadium 2 on N64, now available on Switch Online. Coming to Game Pass tomorrow as of release, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 18th. Also wanted to note, end of the month, Immortality is leaving Game Pass. Play Immortality if you haven't. That game fucking rules. But also, if you have a Netflix subscription, you can play Immortality on your TV. I just don't really know how, but you can do it because it's a Netflix game too. Batman Arkham Trilogy coming to Switch October 13th. The first of two DLCs for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has a date. The Teal Mask is dropping September 13th, so just under a month. And then the second DLC is still dropping this winter, in quotes, so probably beginning of next year. A re-release of Red Dead Redemption is dropping this Friday, the 18th, as well on PS4, which also means PS5 and Switch. But it's going to be $50, which is kind of silly. But if you've never played the game and you like cowboys, the game does fucking rule. $50 just seems like a bit much to me for a game that has no improvements. Also, Assassin's Creed Mirage doing something we don't see often, pushed up a week from the 12th to the 5th of October, I guess, trying to get as many sales as they can before Alan Wake, Spider-Man, and the new Mario game later in the month. And also, they confirmed it's going to be $50. Interesting. Interesting.
Interesting.
Some PS Plus additions for this month. End of the month on the 29th, my wife's birthday. Sea of Stars, which is a really cool old school feeling JRPG with a really cool art style. Check out Sea of Stars if you like those games. Like Nick, I bet you're going to like Sea of Stars. Moving Out 2 is available now. Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, Lost Judgment, Destroy All Humans 2, Reprobed, 2 Point Hospital, recently left Game Pass, now on PlayStation Plus Extra. And also Dreams are also available now on PlayStation Plus. And then later this month, just as like a little nugget, little note, we talked about it earlier, but Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon drops on the 25th. Just as like a reminder.
Here's the thing, Patrick. Here's the thing. That game looks sick as fuck.
It looks fucking cool. I'm not going to play that game, though.
It's going to take me forever to get to it.
I can almost guarantee you I won't play in calendar year 2023 Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon.
Well, as much as I want to play because it looks so good and I like the old Armored Core games, I just can't.
Yeah, not going to happen. The games I'm prioritizing, Starfield, Alan Wake, and Marvel Spider-Man. But I hope that I can get to more than that. But those are the three that I'm absolutely definitely playing. Like I really want to play Assassin's Creed. I really want to play Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Actually, I'll be playing Super Mario Bros. Wonder too. That's on Switch. So that's a little different. Also, if I may, Cayman.
You may.
Friend of the show, Handsome Tony. His birthday right now.
Handsome Tony.
Let's all say happy birthday to Handsome Tony. He's probably not listening, but happy fucking birthday, Tony. I hope you're not on Instagram. But
every time I see him, I wish him a happy birthday, and I miss it on his actual birthday. Hold on, let me text that boy.
But call him right now. Let's get him on live on air.
Do you think? I don't think he'd answer me.
I'll try.
You try.
Let's see. Tony Thomas. I don't know why he's not in my phone as Handsome Tony Thomas.
Did you please tell me you typed in handsome?
I tried. All right, here we go. Let's see. Let's see if he's a coward or if he's going to talk to him.
Hello.
Hey, Tony. How are you? Tony, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
What happened there? Were you lost in space?
Oh, Tony.
Oh, no. I had my headphones on.
Your headphones.
For some reason, it didn't connect.
Well, Tony, you're live on the Spotlight Games podcast right now. We just wanted to call you to wish you a happy birthday.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. I had a great birthday.
Good. I'm glad. Are you a little drunk right now?
A little bit. Yeah.
No, that's my boy.
I didn't stop.
Good.
I just kept going.
Good.
Good.
You can't hear Cayman right now, but he's very proud of you and he says happy birthday as well.
Can you ask Cayman if we can have sloppy steaks at Tribbiani's?
Yes, we can have sloppy steaks at Tribbiani's.
Yes, we can. We can have sloppy steaks at Tribbiani's. He says. I'm translating for you.
I think we should have some. What is it? What is it? It's something at Ciccolini's.
Something at Ciccolini's. He said.
Ciccolini's.
Oh man!
Tell
him I'm also a giant piece of shit.
He's a giant.
Yeah, me too, brother. I'm a giant.
It's not that he used to be. He currently is a giant piece of shit. Well, Tony, thank you for answering. Happy birthday from here at Spotlight Games. We love you. We hope you have a great rest of your night. But goodbye.
Thank you.
We did it, folks.
We did it, folks.
Have a great rest of your week. Oh, we got a comment. Hold on. Let's go. Used to be a piece of shit.
Used to be a piece of shit.
Let us know who's going to be Baby of the Year and who will be Game of the Year. But until then, Spot Games Pod, Spotlight Games Pod, Peachwag, Dumpster Boy, you know where to follow us and find us. Bye-bye.